The time is 6 p.m. and the regular meeting of the Denison City Council is now in session. Our invocation will be given by Pastor Vicki Gaskin. Rise to the Times Ministries.
Thank you for a spirit of cooperation that's rising here. We thank you for our health, especially in this season, and the place we ask you to place a hedge of protection around our community to deliver us from sickness and disease. Our hearts and prayers go out to those who are currently battling for wellness. We ask you tonight to touch them and to bring total restoration. Thank you for these men and women that are present here tonight who willingly serve us each and every day in their roles throughout this city. May you bless them, each one, as well as their families as they sacrifice for our benefit. I ask you tonight that you would give everyone here involved your wisdom, your sense of justice, a justice that will show no partiality, whether it's to the wealthiest among us or to the poorest. Your word says that righteousness exalts a nation or a city. So we ask that our city be governed with your righteousness at its very foundation. Your righteousness delivers us from trouble. Your righteousness brings a true peace that helps us to avoid trouble. Your righteousness sets people free. Lord, for every item that's on the agenda tonight, we declare that you should lead in the decisions. Let your wisdom prevail and a sense of fairness for all. May there be a unity even in our diversity in this community. Give everyone here ears to hear each other, and especially you. We ask it all in Jesus' name.
Amen. Tonight, we have with us a very good-looking group of boys and girls from the Boys and Girls Club. And as I call your name, would you kind of raise your hand so we all know who you are? Okay. So first we have Elise Robbins. Hi. She is an 8th grader at Scott Middle School, and she wants to be a veterinarian. Very good. Addison Robbins. Addison is a 7th grader at Scott Middle School, and she also wants to be a veterinarian. I see a joint practice going on here. Do you? Ace Johnson. Hi, Ace. Ace is a 3rd grader at Lamar Elementary. He loves football, and his favorite team is the Philadelphia Eagles. Yeah. I don't think you're going to get many claps on that one, Ace. Jada Watson. Jada is a 1st grader at Houston Elementary, and when she grows up, she wants to be a firefighter. All right. Caleb Jason is a 1st grader at Lamar Elementary, and he wants to be the executive director of the Boys and Girls Club in Denison. So, Ron, you better watch out. Joshua Merchant. Joshua is a 2nd grader at Houston Elementary, and he's not sure what he wants to be when he grows up, but right now he's putting all of his focus on soccer. That could lead to a pretty good career there, Joshua. And Taylin Kimbrell. Taylin is a 7th grader at Scott Middle School, and she wants to be a veterinarian assistant. So you've got the whole practice right there. So this wonderful group of boys and girls is going to lead us in our pledge tonight. Anytime you're ready. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you so much. As a community and as a municipal government, we all recognize that our team members are what makes us special and what sets us apart. And we often have team members that go above and beyond expectations, certainly, any reasonable expectation. In the almost 3 years that I have been mayor, I have seen the name of Officer Jacob Shoemate come across my email numerous times because Officer Shoemate simply makes a difference everywhere he goes and everything that he does. And in some cases, what Officer Shoemate does leads to the saving of someone's life. So if Officer Shoemate, City Manager Judd Rex, and Chief Gudgel would join me in the front, we have a very special award to present. And I'm gonna social distance because I don't want to wear this mask because Officer Shoemate, I want you to be able to hear every word. And if I have this mask on, I don't think you're going to be able to. Proclamation of the City of roommates should not take this personally, but I'm getting out my hand sanitizer. All right. At this point in each council meeting, time is set aside for citizens who may speak on any action item listed on the agenda. In order to speak, a citizen must fill out a request to speak card, and it must be completed and returned to the city clerk prior to reaching the public comment section of the agenda. Ms. Walentine, do we have any cards? We do not. All right. No cards, therefore there will be no public comments. Item 4, the consent agenda. Before we address this item, item 4F needs to be pulled from the consent agenda and entertained separately as an individual item. So I'll entertain a motion for the consent agenda without item 4F.
Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as presented with the exception of 4F.
Second.
There is a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Doty and a second by Councilmember Spiegel. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion carries. Item 4F, Councilmember Spiegel will need to recuse himself and leave the dais. Let the record reflect that the time is 6:12 and Councilmember Spiegel left the dais. 4F, receive a report, hold a discussion, and take action on awarding a bid and entering into a contract with Tex Global Contractors Incorporated for the constructions of the Waterloo Lake Regional Park Trail Enhancement Project and authorize the city manager to execute the same. Does any of the council need any explanation of this item? A motion?
Mayor, I move to approve awarding the bid and entering into a contract with Tex Global Contractors, Inc. for the construction of the Waterloo Lake Regional Park Trail Enhancement Project and authorize the city manager to execute the same.
Second.
There is a motion by Councilmember Hander and a second by Councilmember Greenleaf. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion carries. Item 5A, receive a report, hold a discussion, conduct a public hearing, and take action on a substantial amendment to the Community Development Block Grant 2019 Annual Action Plan to Oh, I'm sorry. I have to let Councilmember Spiegel come back to the dais. All right. The time, let the record reflect that the time is 6:14 and Councilmember Spiegel has returned to the dais. Now, to continue with item 5A, receive a report, hold a discussion, conduct a public hearing, and take action on a substantial amendment to the Community Development Block Grant 2019 Annual Action Plan to allocate $173,668 of Community Development Block Grant Program Coronavirus Response Funds to be used to prevent, prepare for, and respond to COVID-19. Mr. Rex.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. As a CDBG entitlement community, the city of Denison has been granted access to $173,668 through the CDBG Coronavirus Response Funds, which is a kind of a subset of the CARES Act that was passed back in March. This money basically is made available to the city to help the overall community with response to coronavirus and the COVID-19 pandemic. In order to access those funds, we basically have to amend our current CDBG annual action plan, which is, we're under a 2019 annual action plan still right now. So the proposal before you tonight is to hold a public hearing and then allocate these funds into two categories. The first is for public services. 90% of the funds would go towards public services, which is basically will allow us to provide financial assistance to establish, stabilize, and expand various organizations in the community that provide education, medical, food delivery, cleaning, and other services to support healthcare and childcare. really what we're eyeing here is an opportunity to help some of our local nonprofits and organizations receive these funds as they try to adapt to the pandemic and the changing conditions around us. So that's where the bulk of the funds will go. The other 10% is just allocated towards planning and administrative costs, basically to help us recoup the cost of administering the program and help get the money out to various nonprofits. So we've had some discussions with a number of organizations in the city that we're looking to assist with these funds, and including the Boys and Girls Club that was here tonight, provide some technology for them to provide remote learning opportunities for their kids, and open to other opportunities as well. Really, the first action is just to allocate it, make it a part of our plan, and then we can move forward and start allocating the funds. So it's, again, another opportunity for us to help the community out, and we look forward to that. So we recommend holding a public hearing tonight and then approving the amendment to the annual action plan. The CDBG Steering Committee recommended approval previously at a meeting on August 27th, and I can answer any questions the council may have.
Questions for Mr. Rex? This is a public hearing. Is there anyone here wishing to speak on behalf of this agenda item? There being none, the public hearing is closed. Discussion from council? A motion.
Mayor, I move to approve the substantial amendment adopting a Community Development Block Grant 2019 Annual Action Plan to include the proposed CDBG-CV budget to fund public services and administration of eligible activities.
Second.
There is a motion by Councilmember Crawley and a second by Councilmember Spiegel. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion carries. Item 5B, receive a report, hold a discussion, and take action on an ordinance changing the zoning of Block 13, Lots 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, original town plat, Denison, Texas, from light industrial to single family 5. Mr. Medina.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. This is case number 2020-080Z. The applicant is requesting to rezone the subject property from light industrial to single-family 5. A comprehensive plan shows this area to be developed as residential. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval on the 25th of August. Here's the subject property here, outlined in red. This is the southern half of the 200 block of East Walker. As you can see, it consists of 5 lots that are currently vacant. Here's an aerial of the subject properties. Working with a developer, they recently purchased the property, and in order for them to move forward with constructing 5 new infill homes, we got to clean this zoning up. This is another pocket of Denison. This is probably the same one you've recall from past meetings, where the zoning in this part of town, just north of Maine and east of Austin, has challenging zoning that's pre-existing, whether it's local retail or commercial or light industrial, even though the rest of the neighborhood has primarily been developed, as you can see, to the north and to the west as single-family residential. So this is a public hearing, and we recommend approval, and I'm present for any questions that you may have.
Questions for Mr. Medina? This is a public hearing. Is there anyone here wishing to speak on behalf of this agenda item? There being none, the public hearing is closed. Discussion from council. A motion.
Mayor, I move to approve the ordinance changing the zoning of subject properties from light industrial to single-member 5.
Second.
There is a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Doty and a second by Councilmember Hander. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion carries. Item 5C, receive a report, hold a discussion, conduct a public hearing, and take action on an ordinance changing the zoning of 220 South Scullin Avenue, Denison, Texas, from single-family 5 to local retail. Mr. Medina.
Good evening again. This This is case number 2020-074Z. The applicant is requesting to rezone the property from single-family 5 to local retail. The 2018 comprehensive plan shows this area to be developed as a neighborhood with some retail or light uses as appropriate. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval on August 11th. Here's the subject property outlined in red. This is the survey. I understand it's a little difficult to read and there's a lot of property lines that could be cleaned up. But here's a better photo for you. This is the aerial. It's the old Salvation Army Boys and Girls Club. The applicant recently purchased the property and would like to relocate their childcare facility to this location. Why this was ever zoned single-family 5, we're not too sure, but we're working on cleaning them up, cleaning spots like this up. As you can see, the facility is already outfitted for a childcare use. There's an outdoor track and field. There's plenty of open space, adequate parking, adequate access. Here's the zoning map. Another thing to point out as well, or I'd like to point out, is you can see Denison High School. For some reason, that's also zoned single-family 5, even though no one should be living in there. The applicant has conducted quite a bit of work already, just cleaning up the site. As you can see, they've went and polished the floors, done miscellaneous repairs on the inside, to the windows, to the walls. I mean, they did a fantastic job. There's some more work that they've conducted. And here's the gym. So, again, this is a public hearing. We recommend approval, and I'm present for any questions that you may have.
Questions for Mr. Medina? This is a public hearing. Is there anyone here wishing to speak on behalf of this agenda item? There being none, the public hearing is closed. Discussion from council?
I would just like to say that I appreciate you doing this. This facility needs to have something in it. And for it to sit vacant this long has not been a good deal at all. So I appreciate you taking this on. It's a big project.
Thank you, we're ready to move forward.
It looks great.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? A motion.
Mayor, I move to approve the ordinance changing the zoning of the subject property from single-family 5 to local retail.
Second.
There is a motion by Councilmember Crawley and a second by Councilmember Greenleaf. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Medina. Item 5D, receive a report, hold a discussion, conduct a public hearing, and receive testimony from the Code Compliance Manager on the unsafe condition of the posted structure of 608 West Florence and take action. Mr. Lay.
Hi, Mayor and Council. It's good to be with you tonight. Okay. On August 20, 2020, Margaret Thomas, the estate of R.J. Harvey, Jackie Marie Keaton, and the current occupants were given notice to repair or demolish the structure at 608 West Florence. The owner has failed to comply with the notice. The structure is unsafe in accordance with Chapter 13, Article 7, Section 13-154, H, L, and O of the Denison Code of Ordinances. Code compliance officers have documented 26 code violations and documented 16 complaints at this residence since 2017. Denison police have responded to 32 calls at this residence since 2018. Types of calls at the residence have included overdoses, theft, fighting, among other disturbances. On July 23rd, 2020, an admin search warrant was executed to assess the condition of the interior and exterior of the structure. Code compliance officers, the fire marshal, the building officials are all involved in the search warrant. We got that in response to a police officer that had responded to a call there and alerted us to the conditions in which the occupants were living. So the structure does not meet minimum property standards as outlined in city ordinance due to the dilapidated exterior structure. Among the violations found were people living in an accessory building on the property. A large accumulation of rubbish and open storage throughout the property. As you can see in the picture here, that is between the house and the accessory building where we found people living. I can't tell you how long it looks like people have just thrown whatever in between there. There's a fence that kind of blocks it from public view in the front. You can see it from the rear of the property. Of course, when we got the search warrant, we were able to find all these things. On the interior of the property, we found many fire hazards, exposed wiring throughout the property, creating, again, numerous fire hazards. The residents are living in the residence with no water service. We had to pull the meter in June. We had a complaint about a leak. We found where the residence was discharging raw waste onto the neighboring property. The search warrant also revealed where the waste was going underneath the house, creating just multiple health hazards there. As a result of the search warrant, the Denison Fire Department determined that it is unsafe for them to enter the property if there is ever a fire at the residence. Kind of a picture of the interior of the bathroom. Obviously, it doesn't work, and there's just, and I could have shown multiple pictures where there's just filth all through the house. So the appraised value of the improvement in 2020 was $50,864. The taxes that are currently owed equal $1,643.68, but have not been paid since 2015. The structure is a nuisance in the neighborhood. It's a fire hazard. It is a health hazard for the occupants. It is not fit to be occupied. A record of the violations, notices, and unsafe condition of the property are on file in the Code Compliance Department. Staff is requesting council to declare the structure unsafe and order the structure vacated and order its removal. I'm free to answer any questions.
Questions for Mr. Lay? Robert, is that a cat? Is there a cat living in the house?
There are animals in there, yes, ma'am.
There, okay. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone here wishing to speak on behalf of this agenda item? There being none, the public hearing is closed. Discussion from council? A motion.
Mayor,
Go ahead.
Mayor, I move to declare the structure at 608 West Florence a nuisance and unsafe, to order occupants to vacate, and for demolition of the structures, to authorize staff to proceed with the demolition process.
Second.
There is a motion by Councilmember Crawley and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Goodnight Doty. This man right here next to me. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion carries. Items 5E, receive a report, hold a discussion, conduct a public hearing, and receive testimony from the code compliance manager on the unsafe condition of the posted structure at 927 West Chase and take action. Mr. Lay.
Okay. On August 20, 2020, Wanda Odom, James Odom, Midland Funding LLC, Internal Legal, Tommy Shires, and W.R. Starkey Mortgage LLP were given notice of violation to repair or demolish the secondary residential structure at 927 West Chase. The owner has failed to comply with the notice. The structure is unsafe in accordance with Chapter 13, Article 7, Section 13-154, H and N of the Denison Code of Ordinances. So this structure was worked for minimum property standards earlier this year. The owner, in response to that, asked the city if we could demolish. It did qualify for the demolition program. Once we did a property search or title search on it, it was going to require a whole lot more signatures for that consent than we could get, so thus we needed to have the public hearing to get the order. So the owner, again, does understand what's going on and did consent originally. The appraised value of the improvement was $1,366 in 2020. The taxes are current. There hasn't been any water service at this structure since August 12, 2015. There is a main structure on this that the property owners live in. This is just a secondary property that existed, and they just failed to maintain. The structure is a nuisance in the neighborhood. The structure is not weather tight. A record of the violations, notices, and unsafe condition of the property are on file in the Code Compliance Department. Staff is requesting council to declare the structure unsafe and order its removal. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Mr. Lay? This is a public hearing. Is there anyone here wishing to speak on behalf of this agenda item? Being none, the public hearing is closed. Discussion from council? A motion.
Mayor, I move to declare the secondary residential structure at 927 West Chase a nuisance and unsafe, to order demolition, and to authorize staff to proceed with the demolition process.
Second.
There is a motion by Councilmember Hander and a second by Councilmember Greenleaf. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion carries. Item 5F, receive a report, hold a discussion, conduct a public hearing, and receive testimony from the Code Compliance Manager on the unsafe condition of the posted structure at 1716 West Walker and take action. Mr. Lay.
On August 20th, 2020, Michael Smith Sr., Reba Pogue Smith, and Collins Asset Group were given notice of violation to repair or demolish the structure at 1716 West Walker. The owner has failed to comply with the notice. The structure is unsafe in accordance with Chapter 13, Article 7, Section 13-154, B and H of the Denison Code of Ordinances. This house was partially destroyed by a fire on March 13th, 2020. The appraised value of the improvement was $30,245 for 2020. The current taxes owed total $2,022.48 and haven't been paid since 2012. The structure is a nuisance in the neighborhood and a catastrophe due to the fire. A record of the violations, notices, and unsafe condition of the property are on file in the Code Compliance Department. Staff is requesting council to declare the structure unsafe and order its removal. Happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Mr. Lay? This is a public hearing. Is there anyone here wishing to speak on behalf of this agenda item? There being none, the public hearing is closed. Discussion from council. A motion.
Mayor, I move to declare the structure at 1716 West Walker a nuisance and unsafe, to order demolition of the structure, and to authorize staff to proceed with the demolition process.
Second.
There is a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Doty and a second by Councilmember Spiegel. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Lay. Item 5G, receive a report, hold a discussion, conduct a public hearing, and take action on an ordinance adopting the City of Denison budget for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2020, and ending on September 30th, 2021, and appropriating the funds for the various funds and purposes of such budget. Ms. Wagner.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. You probably thought we'd never get to this point, right? It's been 6 months in the making. Yes, we are here tonight, one, to hold a public hearing on our budget, and two, hopefully to pass an ordinance. Truth and taxation rules and the local government code mandate a governmental unit publish this proposed budget and hold a public hearing. Staff, of course, as you know, has held ongoing meetings since March of this year. We did hold a workshop in June of this year with council and staff, and presentations have been made at council meetings. The city manager has met with staff individually, set priorities, and brought those to council, because this is the city manager's budget for approval. We just kind of help him put all the puzzle pieces together. The proposed budget has been posted on the City of Denison website since August 7th for review, and updated as we made updates, and been in the city clerk's office since that same time. The proposed budget that's before you in your packet tonight, and that's currently on the website, is updated with any changes or recommendations that have occurred since March. The public hearing, adoption of the budget, and hopefully approval of the ordinance are set for tonight here at City Hall at 6 o'clock, and I have to say all this according to Texas law. Here in the council chambers at 300 West Main, Denison. Staff recommends holding the public hearing and funding the projects and program enhancements identified in the attached proposed budget and approving the fiscal year 21 budget and ordinance as presented.
Questions for Ms. Wagner? This is a public hearing. Is there anyone here wishing to speak on behalf of this agenda item? There being none, the public hearing is closed. Discussion from council. A motion.
Mayor, I move to adopt the budget as presented and approve the ordinance.
Second.
There is a motion by Councilmember Greenleaf and a second by Councilmember Spiegel, and this does require a roll call vote. Ms. Walentine?
As I say your name, if you'd please say yes or no. Councilmember Hander?
Yes.
Councilmember Greenleaf?
Yes.
Let it reflect that Councilmember Adams is absent. Mayor Gott?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Doty?
Yes.
Councilmember Crawley?
Yes.
And Councilmember Spiegel.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Items 5H, receive a report, hold a discussion, conduct a public hearing, and take action on an ordinance approving this assessment roll of certification estimates by the Board of Review of the Grayson Appraisal District in the amount of $1,589,017,425, levying the ad valorem taxes of the City of Denison, Texas on all property, both personal and real, in the City of Denison for the year 2020 in the amount of .0652034 for each $100 of assessed valuation and providing for the apportionment of such ad valorem taxes. Ms. Wagner.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Before we get to this, though, I know Jed was ready to present a lot of budget items, which of course this tax rate would support this budget. And so I want to go back to those slides and give Mr. Rex, if he wants, an opportunity to talk a little bit more about the budget and what's in that and what this tax rate will help support within that budget. I hate to put him on the spot, but I know we worked hard on some of these slides, and so I wanted to give him an opportunity to do that.
Well, I appreciate that, Renee, and definitely want to thank Renee and her staff for all their help during the whole budget process. There's a lot of work goes on behind the scenes. I know she said this is the city manager's budget, but the city manager relies on a whole lot of help to put this together, especially on Renee and her staff. So thank you, Renee, and please thank your staff as well for all the work. I'll just briefly run over some of the things that was included in the budget and touch on some of the priorities that are in there. So this will look familiar from our budget workshop that we had back in June. Really just was my analysis of what some of our priorities are as we approach the budget moving ahead. Obviously that changed a little bit through the pandemic and really wanted to position ourselves well to make sure that we were prepared and resilient through the pandemic and ready for whatever was going to come at us. So I think we fared pretty well. We've seen some healthy revenues come in during the pandemic despite business closures and different other difficulties as well. So just really appreciate the staff and the council helping guide us through the process overall. Chris, if you'd skip a few slides to one thing that I did include here. Yeah, right here. This is good. So I'd kind of run through this with the city council before, but just wanted to remind some of the organizational changes that we've made. A slight title change to the Director of Communications and Engagement. This was previously the Director of Community Engagement. And this person will also oversee our Convention and Visitors Bureau, marketing and tourism efforts as well. It's a vacant position that we're recruiting for right now, and got a really good response with our recruitment so far, over 73 applicants that we got for that position. So we're excited to move forward with that. I've mentioned before about creating an assistant city manager position from 2 existing leadership positions in public works and development services. We've retained strategic government resources to help us recruit for this position as well, and it's out on the street now, so we look forward to a good response to that recruitment effort as well. We changed the title of our Code Compliance and Animal Services Manager position to Neighborhood Services Manager. It sort of better reflects what that position is responsible for, and kind of accompanies our goal to achieve a quality of life enhancement in our established neighborhoods as well. And then the 3 new positions that were in the budget as well. So I think that's kind of the only new information or kind of a reminder piece that I wanted to include in there. So again, thanks to the council for your guidance through the budget planning process, and to the staff for all their hard work going through the budget process as well. And we're glad that we can maintain our tax rate where it is, our property tax rate, despite the changes that came at us with SB 2, and we'll look forward to taking whatever the rest of 2020 throws at us, and 2021 as well. So thanks again, and I can answer any questions you might have.
Questions for Mr. Rex or Ms. Wagner? This is a public hearing. Is there anyone here wishing to speak on behalf of this agenda item? There being none, the public hearing is closed. Discussion from council. A motion.
It's a long one, Mayor, but I'll make it. I move to approve the ordinance approving the assessment roll of certification estimates by the Board of Review of Grayson Appraisal District in the amount of $1.589017425 billion, levying the ad valorem taxes on the city of Denison, Texas on all property, both personal and real, in the city of Denison for the year 2020 in the amount of 0.652034 for each $100 of assessed valuation, and providing for the apportionment of such ad valorem taxes.
Second.
There is a motion by Councilmember Crawley and a second by Councilmember Hander. All those in favor, please say aye. Oh, no, it takes a roll call vote. No, back up here. All right, Ms. Wallenstein?
All right, once again, as I say your last name, please say yes or no. Councilmember Hander?
Yes.
Note that Councilmember Adams is absent. Councilmember Greenleaf?
Yes.
Mayor Gott?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Doty?
Yes.
Councilmember Crawley?
Yes.
And Councilmember Spiegel?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. And thank you, well, we're going to hear from you again, but we'll thank you at this point, Ms. Wagner. On behalf of myself and the entire council, thank you so much for all of your hard work from you and your staff. I know this was a particularly difficult year with all the new rules. So you made your way through it, and you helped us to understand it, which was a major accomplishment, I think. So now you get, 48 hours off before you have to start working on fiscal 2021 and 2022. So all kidding aside, Renee, thank you so much for all that you and your staff do. You make it look easy, and we all know it isn't. So thank you. Item 6A, receive a report, hold a discussion, and take action to ratify the property tax increase reflected in the fiscal year 2021 budget. Ms. Wagner.
All right. This is a requirement. If the city is adopting a budget that requires more property tax revenue than last year, council must also vote separately to ratify the tax increase reflected in the budget. And we've spoken about this. A majority of those taxes are on new development, which we're excited about, but because that increases our taxes in our budget, or the revenue from that, we have to request that council ratify the tax increase reflected in the budget.
Questions for Ms. Wagner?
Well, I'm shocked that we don't get any formulas no new tax rate, and what am I gonna do for a whole year until it comes back?
You're gonna breathe. You have to start looking at it again. Discussion from council? A motion.
Mayor, I move to ratify the tax increase reflected in the budget.
Second.
There is a motion by Councilmember Greenleaf and a second by Councilmember Hander. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion carries. Thank you again, Renee. Item 6B, receive a report. Well, she's up again. Hold a discussion and take action on the proposed Denison. No, she's not. And that is, are you presenting in place of Tony?
I just usually like to introduce Tony.
Oh, okay. Well, let me finish introducing the item, because Chris confused me here. Receive a report, hold a discussion, and take action on the proposed Denison Development Alliance fiscal year 2021 budget. Ms. Wagner.
Yes, Mayor and Council. Every year, the Denison Development Alliance Board of Directors meet and approve a presented budget for council for you to approve as well. And Tony brings those to you, but just wanted to introduce Tony Kyle with Denison Development Alliance and note that the budget, his draft budget is in your backup there as well as he speaks to that this evening.
All right.
And thank you all.
Mr. Kai.
Madam Mayor, good evening, and council. It's 20 years that I've made this presentation. And I want to say on behalf of the DDA staff, and personally for me, it is an honor and a privilege to serve this council and the citizens of this city for those 20 years. And not all my staff has 20 years, but Loretta does. William will someday. But I always want to say that because it means a lot to be able to work in this city and work with the professional staff and our friend Judd Rex and all the city employees that we work daily on projects that are happening in this community. So thank you for letting us be in this community and work in this community for the good of all. With that said, you do have our budget, and we itemize our budget with detailed description of each budget item. So typically, I just hit some of the high spots, typically only those things where there's an increase over the past year. So just to start, we are estimating a 2% increase, which is kind of what we did last year. Who knows what's going to happen, but we're having, up to this date, a 6% increase over last year in our sales tax increase. So we budgeted 2%. Now, when you go down to lease income on Floorstone, you can see that's $406,000. If you went back to the expenses on Floorstone lease, it's like $34,000. But in general, what we did when we built that Floorstone building, we did a 20-year AM schedule and did a lease purchase with Floorstone. But there was a member of my board that says, you know what, we ought to pay that off in 15 years. And that was 15 years ago. So the net difference in paying that off is $400,000 a year for the next 5 years. Now, that was Mr. Crawley that did that. And so I just want to point that out because that's significant. Moving on, computer expenses, we have a pretty significant jump there. I'm not a big tech guy, and I don't want anybody messing with my computer, but some of my staff do like to have a computer that works and software that works. And so our computers are like 6 or 7 years old, new software, you have to have computers to run the new software. So Loretta put this together for us, and we did a lot of shopping on this. But we're going to replace, I guess, all of our computers and bring them up to date to handle the new software that's out. So that's that item. The copy machine is 10 years old, and it probably should have gone a couple of years ago, but I thought we could get 2 more years out of it. But we're at the end of that. So in that copier maintenance budget is a new copy machine. You'll see that we've got a lot of money in our budget this year under estimated one-time expenses. It's where we list all of our incentives that are outstanding. But I just want to point out that the work that we've been doing on Main Street and how much we've invested and are going to invest this year, minimum of $335,000 just on facades. And we also have fire suppression incentive to cost share on installing sprinkler systems on Main Street because we think that's important. And then the last item is the John Mansville property and the cost to purchase that property and then hopefully renovate it and redevelop it. So there's some pretty big numbers in that section of our budget. And I know everyone's aware of that because we've all worked on those together. Outside of that, marketing expenses are basically the same. The big budget item that we put in place this past year because of COVID was to help our small businesses on Main Street. So we launched, the DDA launched this e-commerce program that William's been administering, and that's going to be a state award winner for its creative layout and how it's helping small businesses become proficient in e-commerce. The DDF did a loan program of $2,500 for small businesses that were in need during COVID. So working together, we did what we thought we could and help our small businesses during the COVID, and I think it worked pretty well. So we're pretty happy with that. But with all that said, I'd love to answer any questions about the budget or anything that you have a question about.
Questions for Mr. Kai?
I think only y'all could grow the economy during a pandemic, and it shows that y'all do really well. I know our small businesses really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Discussion from council. A motion?
Mayor, I move to approve the Denison Development Alliance fiscal year 2021 budget as presented.
Second.
There is a motion by Councilmember Hander and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Doty. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion carries. Mr. Kai, I would like to say on behalf of myself and this council that we are blessed that we have a team in Denison that shares the same vision, that Denison will become the community of choice. And we are sure glad that you and your team are part of building the quality of life in this city that is going to make people choose us. So thank you very much for all that you do. Item 7A, provide an update on development of the fiscal year 2021 Park Trail and Master Plan, Mr. Eastwood.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I agree with Mr. Kai. It's an absolute pleasure to speak with you all tonight, and 18 plus more years, so I could get to 20 years plus. That's my goal. It is an honor to give you an update regarding what I was able to present during the June 26th fiscal year 21 budget workshop, where I was able to provide the vision for the Parks and Trails Master Plan. What I'd like to do is a brief overview of what I presented that day, just a few slides. Today's focus is going to be on the formation of the steering committee. I'm going to provide just a general project timeline, and I will be available for questions afterwards. As always, I like to tie everything back into our mission statement within Parks and Recreation, because everything we do ties into this statement. It's always our goal to surpass the expectations of every visitor by providing a once-in-a-lifetime experience every time they talk to staff and visit a Denison Parks and Recreation facility. It's also always our goal to meet the recreational needs of our community, regardless of background and capability, and reflect the entire wellness paradigm. So a brief overview. A Parks and system-wide Park Master Plan is a comprehensive document and process that includes an internal assessment, community engagement, resources, data collection, development, and implementation, and the plan associated. We hope to ground our process holistically on multi-benefits. The cornerstones that I have listed here are health, economic impact and tourism, active transportation, natural sustainability. So getting back to our mission, health being really the dimensions of health. So physical, mental, social, emotional, and intellectual, so on and so forth. As seen, for example, in the Texoma Health Foundation Park. Economic impact and tourism, another great example would be THF, but we want to spread out throughout our entire park system, really providing programs and activities that help boost the economy in that regard. Active transportation, that would be our walking trail systems, and then also grounding this potential plan within our awesome natural resources we have right now. So the steering committee, what that is, it's essentially a mechanism for ensuring partners and community members have a way to regularly provide input into the process. This committee should represent different perspectives of the community and should communicate many interests within the community, so there are a lot of great ideas that are brought to the table, people with different skill sets, backgrounds, so on and so forth. If you remember back in 2018, the city came up with a comprehensive plan. This would be very similar. The steering committee's role would be very similar as well, and the progress of their activities would flow as such. We would also, like that plan, we'd also look at the ETJ and other transportation type planning to ensure that that plan, other plans, continue to work synergistically together. So our committee will essentially be made up of 12 to 15 representatives. The citizens, as mentioned, would have different backgrounds of sorts, people with different interests, maybe in outdoor recreation, sport, wellness, different age groups, so on and so forth. I would be calling on people like yourselves, council members, our Parks and Recreation Commission, Planning and Zoning Commission, as well as community partners such as the Texoma Health Foundation. City staff would also be excited to be included and lead that process. Obviously, Parks and Recreation, City Manager, Public Works, Planning, Tourism, and Public Safety. So our general timeline, after today, we would form the steering committee, solidify that. Sometime, most likely late September, we would have a kickoff, a strategic kickoff of sorts. Staff would, at that point, draft an RFP. And October, November, we would interview the respondents for the RFP with the committee. In November, we'd select a consultant. November, also negotiate that contract with the consultant. And then we would go through the mechanisms, being the Parks and Recreation Commission. I would come back to present to the City Council, November, December, for approval. And then finally, 2021, we'd be looking to kick it off. I'm available for any questions at this time.
Questions for Mr. Eastwood?
Excited to start the process. For sure.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Just so you know, Justin, this plan of master trail plan is the envy of everybody in North Texas. So just so you know, that you get to do something really, really special.
Yeah, glad to do it. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
thank you so much for the presentation, and we are all very excited about seeing this process begin.
Absolutely, thank you all.
That was an information-only item, so no action is required by the council. Pursuant to Chapter 551 Texas Government Code, the council reserves the right to convene an executive session from time to time as deemed necessary during this meeting to receive legal advice from its attorney on any posted agenda item as permitted by law, or to discuss the following: consult with attorney on a matter in which the attorney's duty to the governmental body under the Texas disciplinary rules of professional conduct conflicts with this chapter, and/or consult with attorney about pending or contemplated litigation or contemplated settlement of the same. Consultation with city attorney regarding administrative complaint. Discuss the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment of duties, discipline, or dismissal of, or to hear a complaint against a public officer or employee, section 551.074. We are going to ask you all to clear the council chamber so that we may continue to social distance during our executive session. So the time is 7:02, and the council is now in executive